Hi everyone, it's Nick. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. Okay, in this video today, we are going to be talking about 10 things in your home that are making your kitchen look cheap. Okay, so ruffle some feathers here, as I always like to do here on the channel. But listen, these are just mistakes I think that you might be making in your kitchen. Just consider me an anonymous friend on the internet that is giving you some advice, okay? I'm just saying these are things in your home that might make your kitchen look a little bit cheap and you might want to maybe swap them out. And I'm going to give you some ideas on how you're going to do that. As always, these are just my opinion. If you don't like it, whatever. I'm just a person, never going to go to your house, okay? And if I did go to your house, I would just go say it's beautiful and then later on internalize things I don't like and then talk about it on the internet, okay? Like a gentleman, that's what I do. I'm just a guy in my living room with like dog hair on my sweater, okay? Like it doesn't matter, okay? But let's talk about some things that you might want to swap out because they might make your place look cheap. Now, even the most cheapest, ugliest of kitchens can produce beautiful food, okay? It's not necessarily about that, but if you care about the function and the aesthetics of your place, listen on. Okay, first up on my list is gonna be the over-the-range microwave. This is a very dated look. This was really popular 20 years ago, but honestly, you still see it to this day in modern kitchens. Like you still see people putting them in, and I don't think it's good for a couple of big reasons. If you're not familiar what an over-the-range is, an OTR as they say in the biz, is where you've got the range down below with the cooktop and the oven, but then above it, you have the microwave, like directly above. And really what this does is it's providing a place to put the microwave, obviously, but it is also acting as sort of the range hood. Instead of having an actual dedicated range, it's like built into the whole system. And on the surface, this makes a lot of sense. You're like, oh, but this is super efficient. Like what better place to put the microwave than right above it? And then you can build in and now you got your range already got your range and you got your range hood and all the rest of it. And it's all fitting into one little neat little package. It's a problem for a couple of reasons. I think first of all, these solutions oftentimes are not great at actual dedicated sort of ventilation. Ideally, you want to actually ventilate your range outside the home, right? So that's ideal. You're ventilating and it's going directly outside, which is good for moisture and it's better for your cabinetry, it's better for your home, it's better for you, it's just better, okay? We're just gonna say it's better. And so if you can do that, that is definitely the ideal situation. And oftentimes these are not going to necessarily do that. And really the presence of an actual dedicated hood, I think does a much better job at ventilating than the over-the-range microwave typically sort of does. Aesthetically speaking, it also kind of looks a little bit cheap because this is like such an amazing focal point in your kitchen. Like this is oftentimes the focus of the kitchen, really. Like this is the centerpiece. This is kind of where it all is. And as a focal point, I don't think a microwave is an ideal thing to put as the centerpiece. I would rather the microwave in other areas, to be honest. I'm a big fan of the microwave actually, or a drawer, like one that you sort of place your stuff in, the drawer microwave inside a kitchen island. I think it works really well there, or a little like down below. People think that kids are gonna like crawl inside their microwaves or something, which like, sorry, your kid's still stupid, but that's not a good thing for them to do. Safety first. But like, you know, I get it. It's like people could play with it, like kids could play with it or whatever, and that's obviously not a great thing. And you know, it might not be the most ideal place to actually use the microwave, but honestly, you're using the microwave like that often. I guess that sort of depends on you and your lifestyle, I guess. But I actually really like it there. I think especially where you have a drawer where you can actually place like a bowl inside the drawer microwave up top, I think that works a little bit better. But even if you want to put it on a kitchen countertop or you want to put it inside a pantry, if you're blessed enough to have one, other places, I think like asymmetrically, it works a little bit better in other areas of the kitchen as opposed to that focal point right in the center. Aesthetically, it doesn't work well. Functionally, it's not the best. And that's why I think this is a mistake. And it just overall cheapens the look of your whole space. There's such an opportunity there for you to do a beautiful range hood, whether that's behind cabinetry, behind stone, whether behind like a beautiful range hood and like a metal or something. Lots of ways you can do that. The microwave isn't it. Okay, next on my list is gonna be cropped cabinetry. I have railed against cropped cabinetry for years and I don't love it. I saw a recent Instagram that I commented on and I was like, there's no debate, because a husband and wife were debating which one is better, cabinets to the ceiling or cropped cabinetry. And I was like, this isn't a thing. Like this isn't a debate. Like this is just one is, in my opinion, better. People disagreed with me. Obviously it's the internet. Welcome to the internet. And people are welcome to their opinions, but I'm sorry, I'm not here to have that debate. Like cropped cabinetry always looks cheap. It just looks very builder grade. It looks like it's a stock cabinetry that is just there to sort of fill the space and that's it. And it works for that reason. It doesn't look particularly custom because it isn't, Let's just call that as it is, right? Like there's ways you can customize, ways you can get the custom look without necessarily paying or having something completely custom, but this isn't even attempting, right? This is a dust collector up top. This is inaccessible to be able to have to like, you know, dust or whatever. People put their fake plants, their cheap plastic fake plants up there, or they put teapots. I don't know, what do people like, collect teapots? Like maybe that's just my mother, but like people do do stuff like that and then they shove it up there and never clean it. It's just dust collecting up there. If you're doing cabinetry to the ceiling, it's gonna make your ceilings look taller, which is gonna be a lot more luxurious, which is amazing. A lot less dusting and an opportunity to provide some functional storage. Now you might be like, oh, but I can never get up there to use the storage. Well, there's things like drop-down cabinetry that works really well that might be an option for you. Or what you could do is just basically put like W cabinetry, like make it like not actually make it functional, but just basically, you know, bring your cabinetry right to the top, but don't make it functional. It's gonna mean a lot less dusting. It's gonna look a lot cleaner. It's gonna look a lot custom, and it's gonna make your kitchen ceiling height a lot taller, which is gonna be more luxurious and more beautiful in my humble opinion. Not humble, but in my opinion. So crop cabinetry, sorry, making your place look a little bit cheap. Now, if you've got them already in place, again, you might wanna consider DIYing your solution there to bring it to the ceiling. Might not be super functional, but it'll make a big, big difference. A lot easier to clean too. Okay, next on my list is gonna be drywall backsplash, or like a really stubby backsplash. I don't really like those either. Let's be honest that the problem with this one right away is that it feels like you ran out of budget to actually put in a real backsplash. Do you know what I mean? Like that is 90% of the reason why people do these is because it's just like, hey, why do I need a backsplash at all? And they just stick with drywall. Now, some of my favorite things to use would be tiles. So if you want to go really trendy, you could get like a Zalige tile, or you could do like, what are those ones? Like a vertical stack tile is really popular. Or if you wanted to do like something like a subway tile, I think is still like a timeless design. I know people are like, oh, it was really, really popular 5 years ago and now it looks a little bit dated. I don't care. I think subway tile is a timeless option. Personally, I like when the grout closely matches the tile itself, so it's a bit lower contrast. I think that's a little bit more of a timeless look, but I do think that any tiles really that you think are beautiful, get creative here, I think can work really well and be really fun. Personally, my favorite, which is a very contemporary design, is to carry the countertop up into the backsplash. So whether that's a natural stone, whether that's quartz, whether that's porcelain, whatever you choose to do, I think that's also really beautiful. But when you have nothing at all and you just go with drywall, it looks cheap. It looks kind of like the Landlord special where they're just like, hey, how do we so cheaply do this where we really actually don't care about the kitchen very much? We don't care about the longevity. We don't care about the opportunity to have some verticality, some vertical space that you can actually do something, use some color or use some texture or different material or something. They don't care about any of that, right? Which is what you're getting if you're using a more interesting backsplash. And they're basically like, let's just drywall it, just drywall it and be done. It looks cheap because it is cheap because you don't really have to do anything. Also, I will add the little tiny lip of like the 1-inch one. I've seen this in a lot of contemporary spaces that look really beautiful. I think it still looks a little bit cheap and I think it will look quite dated. In addition, I will also say the functionality of using drywall, or even if you're gonna be super trendy and use lime wash or Roman clay or whatever instead, I think the challenge here is that these surfaces and these materials, or this is not meant for the use case for what you're actually gonna be needing. Like backsplash serves a purpose, I guess is my point. Like, you know what I mean? Like it does a job. Like that is that when you're cooking and you're sitting there cooking your tomato sauce or whatever, you got your pasta going, or you're, I don't know, making soup, or I don't know what you do. I don't know. But if you're doing all that, it's probably splashy. And if it's splashing on drywall, that's not gonna hold up really, really well over the long term. Well, something like a tile is gonna do a much better job of being able to handle that because that's what the backsplash is meant for. Backsplash, for things to splash on. So that's the purpose of it. And I think even the trendy solutions like lime wash and Roman clay just don't live up to the function that you're actually really just gonna be needing it for. So for those reasons, I will say they look really cheap. Okay, next up on my list is gonna be metals taking over. I think this looks really cheap in people's homes and I'm sorry. Okay, metals is like jewelry, right? It's like jewelry, like your cabinetry or whatever, like your lighting fixtures, what have you. Like a little bit is fun, a little bit of brass, a little bit of matte black, a little bit of brushed nickel, chrome, whatever your metal of choice, I don't care. It's fun, but it's kind of like jewelry. But it's kind of like if you have too much jewelry, you look like a pimp. And I think it's the same with your kitchen. I think it looks really gaudy and tacky to just use too much metal, like too much. I'm talking like you've got metal stools for your kitchen island, and then you have the exact same metal being used for the lighting fixtures, and then the pot filler, and then you got the T-bars, like you got the bars, cabinet pulls, like all over the space. And like your eye is just drawn to like all the metals, and you're using metal as kind of your primary color in the space. So if you got an all white kitchen and everything else is matte black accents, I think that's looking a little cheap. If you've done the same all white kitchen with all brass accents, it's looking a little cheap. So it's not specific. I will say brass is usually the biggest culprit of this just because it is such a statement and can look a little I'm not political. You know me, I dare not get political on this channel, ever, ever. This is a safe space. We do not need to talk about politics around here, but I think we can all agree it's a little Trumpy. It's a little Trumpy just to have the all gold everything. And again, I don't care if you voted for him, I'm just saying, it's a little Trumpy. And I think we can all agree that that's a little gaudy for a kitchen. Do not come for me in the comment section. I have no time for politics, but you know what I'm saying. Okay, next up on my list, let's speed run past that and go with undersized kitchen pendants. Okay, I am sick of seeing really large, beautiful kitchens with tiny, teeny, tiny little kitchen pendants going on there. What are you doing? Why'd you pick those ones? Why'd you do that? And again, I've seen this in people's houses and I'm like, beautiful. But again, I'm always like, and log that down for a future video. It's just a little bit cheap looking because I think that by going so undersized on your lighting, it's just such a missed opportunity and it feels really sort of cheap and like you couldn't just pick bigger ones. Like you couldn't afford bigger ones. And I know pendants lighting is expensive. Oh, actually, lighting doesn't always have to be expensive. Honestly, if you're gonna go with like 3 tiny kitchen pendants, I think you'd be a lot better off doing 2 larger scale ones. And again, like it's not about money. I hope you don't think that this is necessarily all about money when I say things look cheap. It's more like the cheap and gaudy. It's not really necessarily about the money that you're spending. And I think 2 well-priced, beautiful pendants is gonna go a lot further for you in terms of establishing a presence, but also being able to provide enough adequate lighting for the task that you're gonna be using them for. So for example, pendants on a kitchen island are there because you could be eating there, you could be cooking there, you could be chopping your vegetables, you could do that. Those are tasks that you're gonna be accomplishing in the kitchen. It's important to have adequate lighting, and so pendants can play a part in that. So 2 larger pendants are probably gonna do a better job than rather than having 3 tiny little dinky ones. So I think you can choose to have no pendants at all, which is of course another thing, very common now in contemporary design to just have no pendants. But I will say that if you're going to have pendants, go for something that's a little bit more larger in scale. It's gonna have a lot more of a presence and it's gonna just look a little bit more luxurious. These little tiny ones, they just look like you kind of bought some little cheapy ones from Home Depot. And that's, again, if you do it, that's totally fine. But I'm just saying for me, it makes the space overall look cheap, even if it's an expensive, beautiful place and you've obviously spent a whole ton of money and you have like a large grand kitchen and that's not necessarily, budget wasn't the problem, but for some reason you decided on these little tiny pendants, which I think is a mistake. Okay, next up on my list is gonna be half overlaid doors. So this one, I haven't talked a lot about on this channel, but I really wanted to save it for this video because I think that when people talk about builder grade cabinets, when people talk about sort of generic looking, sort of really basic cabinetry, and they're like, what do I do with it? This is sort of also fitting with the crop thorns to the ceiling. They're referring to the half overlay cabinetry. So this is the one where you can really see sort of the huge gap between your panels that you have for your kitchen cabinet door fronts. And the easiest fix to this one is honestly going for something like what we would call sort of a European style or a full overlay, which is where the kitchen door actually goes and almost connects basically to the ones around it. And again, this isn't about cost or price because these ones, you can buy these at IKEA, you can buy these at lots of different retailers, but they're typically a little bit less common. They're much more commonly used in Europe than they are in North America, but I think the more generic looking half overlay looks a little bit cheap. And sometimes if you stop and you look at your kitchen cabinetry and you're like, something feels off, something doesn't feel like it's necessarily luxurious as it maybe should be, especially when you start looking on Pinterest or Instagram and you start seeing these gorgeous, amazing kitchens and you're like, what did they do that's so different? Oftentimes they're doing a full overlay or they're doing inset cabinetry. Inset cabinetry is much more particular. It's gonna take a lot more craftsmanship to get everything to fit just so, because that's where basically the drawer front is actually inset into the rest of the cabinets. And that is a harder thing to pull off. It's gonna require a lot more skill and it's gonna be a lot more difficult to do. But a full overlay is actually able, I think you could, if you're skilled, which I'm not, but if you're skilled, you could probably actually DIY this off of your half overlay that you already have. So if you have these, and rather than ripping out all your cabinetry and starting again, consider the option of going for a full overlay. I think it's gonna make a huge difference. It's gonna make the whole thing look a lot cleaner and a lot less cheap and less like buildery generic like you might be seeing when you look in your kitchen. Okay, next up on my list, things making your kitchen look cheap is gonna be clearance issues. This one just screams amateur hour, okay? If your kitchen drawers start bumping into each other, wait, what am I doing? Do you know what I mean? Let's never do that again. But if your kitchen drawers are doing that, or you open your dishwasher and it bumps into the kitchen drawer that you had opened, like you're like, do you know what I mean? Like where you got like your kitchen, let's say you got like your utensil drawer and you open it up, but then you open up the dishwasher and they bang into each other. And now every time you have to like open your dishwasher and you got to take out all of your like kitchen cutlery and then close the dishwasher to be able to open. Like that's annoying. It's annoying. And for like a functional use case, like you're gonna, honestly, it's just gonna aggravate you every single day that you empty your dishwasher. But in addition to that, it just feels very cheap and amateur. Because if you are hiring an interior designer or just a person who is designing their own kitchen and they really want to take the time to do it right, double check all your clearance issues. Think of all the different combinations of drawers and appliances that can open and close and how they're going to fit into each other. Because just that little thing, I think, makes a massive difference and makes a place feel a lot more expensive if it functions properly and it works properly, because you can see it. You can see when the drawers bump into each other or the appliances smack into each other. And honestly, it just always makes a place look cheap. It's not very functional. It's going to drive you crazy and it looks really bad too. Okay, next on my list is going to be poor fitting appliances. This is similar, but we're going to stick to appliances for a second. And that is that it looks really cheap when your oven or especially the fridge extend outside of the cabinetry and you can see the sides of them. This is, in my opinion, usually chalked up to poor planning when actually going to do your cabinetry, or oftentimes where people have sort of makeshift, you haven't like done a full renovation and thought the whole way through and you're just sort of piecing everything together, which I get can happen, where you're just like, well, I got this gap and I got a fridge, so I guess I got to buy a new one, and you shove the fridge in and it's too big by like 8 inches and it's sticking out over top of your cabinetry and it just looks like a massive eyesore sitting in the center. And because it wasn't thought through and because it wasn't planned properly, it's going to make your space look cheap. Now again, if you love it and you're just going to use it and it's like what you've got, then by all means use it, cook away, whatever. But I am just going to say that poorly fitting appliances that jut out too far than they should have is poor planning and thus making the space look a little bit cheaper than it would. I'm just throwing it out there. Now, ways to fix that problem would be panel the sides of them if you can. So again, depends on your kitchen, depends on your situation, but if you can find a way to be able to panel the side of it so it looks more built in using the same material as the cabinetry, it's gonna go a long way to making it look custom, even if obviously it was a little bit of an afterthought, which is totally fine, but it's gonna go a long way to sort of fit it in so that it's not jutting out and being this huge eyesore sitting in the center of your kitchen. Okay, next on my list is gonna be only relying on pot lights or can lighting or whatever. This is, we have to talk about lighting because every mistakes video involves lighting at some point, because lighting is like kind of everything and it really just sets the whole thing off. So if you're exclusively relying on can lighting, so I'm not saying don't put any in or whatever, if you don't want any pot lights or what have you, that's fine. But I would say that only relying on it does make a space look cheap. There are other options available too that really jump out, are gonna be things like pendants like we talked about, but also under cabinet lighting, I think makes a huge difference to make a space feel more luxurious. So under cabinet, toe kick lighting also as well. If you have those on dimmers, if you have them on sensors, so like when you walk in, it automatically, has this beautiful little glow sitting at the bottom of your cabinetry when you want a piece of cheesecake in the middle of the night, like that's fun. Like that goes a long way to make your space feel more expensive and luxurious. But if you're just using those pot lights and that's all you got, it does look a little bit cheap, because the thing is when all you're using is down lighting, well, that's where all your lighting is. It's not coming from different directions. It's not adequately lighting the space, and it's gonna feel a little bit hospital-y. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just going to look like, down lighting is not attractive, okay? Like it's not attractive. Like I got a big light fixture here that's kind of pointing at me to the side and it's like creating shadows. And I look really hideous without this lighting. Do you know what I mean? Like this is what you need to look, well, in my case, like presentable, but like in kitchens, it's the same thing. If all you've got is this down lighting, it's just creating these huge harsh shadows on people and your kitchen and all your things, and it's never gonna look particularly attractive, and it's always gonna look cheap. So I would say consider varying your lighting sources, whether that's gonna be under cabinet lighting, whether it's gonna be pendants, whether it's maybe gonna be lamps or sconces, depending on sort of the layout and what makes sense for your kitchen. Lamps or sconces are a really great addition. For larger kitchens, those make a little bit more sense. If you've got a little tiny kitchen, probably taking up all that counter space with a big giant honking lamps, probably not gonna make sense. But if you have a larger kitchen and you're like, what do I do with this little corner? I put some little books over there, maybe a cutting board, maybe a little vignette, consider putting in a lamp, right? Those little things can make a big difference when it comes to lighting, but relying exclusively on the pot lights is not flattering for anybody, and it's gonna make everything look cheap. Okay, so next up on my list is gonna be generic quotes. So It's been a while since I talked about generic quotes, which is funny because I built an entire career off of it here on YouTube. But putting the word kitchen in your kitchen. Are we still doing this? Is this 2025? Where am I? Is this 2021? Are we in the farmhouse era? Is Joanna Gaines like still the most like relevant person in interiors? She's actually gotten better. Like honestly, like I've really like not always been kind, but she's definitely improved, by the way, over the years. Like even she's left the farmhouse look back in 2017, so good on her. And you know, I just think like but they're still sold. So like they're still sold, so people still buying them. So I'm still talking about them, okay? Like I know it feels like it's like we're super over this trend, and we are, but like this, I get, is it generic quotes that's the problem, or just like maybe generic art? I don't know, but your art should have meaning to you. A story behind it would be amazing. Now, if you don't, like that's totally fine. I've got a big dumb clock and like, but that has meaning because people make fun of me for it. So to me, that's funny. So, you know, if something has meaning to you, then that's amazing. And yes, I haven't changed the battery. It's permanently 1217. We all know, you don't have to comment. We all know that it's there on purpose. But I would say that like whatever art you're gonna do, just make sure it has some meaning and it's fun for you and you really enjoy it. I guess if you love a kitschy farmhouse sign, then that's fantastic. If you got a big gather over your kitchen table, then I guess that's fun for you. So, you know, but I think for me, again, please see the beginning of the video. This is just my opinion. It looks really cheap and generic. And we all know to gather on the kitchen table. That's what kitchen tables do. Like that's what they're for. We all know that. The big like eggs with a little chicken on it and a metal sign or something like that in the corner. It's a bit themey and for that reason, a bit cheesy. And I think that is for me why it feels a little bit cheap. And it's felt cheap for a long time. And I think you knew that already. But, you know, bless you for keeping them in your home anyway. You know what I mean? Like, good for you. Fighting the good fight over there with and Hobby Lobby is grateful for your business. So I think they're cheap, but if you love them, keep them. But, you know, these things still kicking around. They're live, laugh, loving for another day. But, you know, to be honest, I'm trying my best to get rid of them, but people still keep them in their homes. They're cheap and a little bit cheesy, and that's why they made this list. So consider swapping out with other pieces of art that actually have meaning, or functional pieces that you actually use, like styling cutting boards or little vignettes or cookbooks or things that actually make sense in a kitchen that are useful and also beautiful. You know, some kitchen appliances, let's be honest, are nicer looking than others. You know, like a beautiful KitchenAid mixer displaying on your countertop is more beautiful than an Instant Pot. You know what I mean? Like it just is. So feel free to, you know, if you're going to use appliances a little bit as decor, be very careful. But if you do, make sure that you're displaying your beautiful ones. And that's like a great way to be using functional things in the kitchen as decor at the same time, but not done in like a cheesy way, but like an obvious, like that's where your KitchenAid is supposed to be. Do you know what I mean? So maybe skip the signs and look for functional pieces to actually add to your kitchen that are also beautiful too. Okay, that's it for me for today, guys. Aren't you impressed that I went the entire video without talking about open shelving? One last thing, open shelving. No, honestly, clutter and cleanliness are also should have been made this list, but like I was like, obvious. Like don't clean your house, people, and clean your cluttered crap off your countertop. But apart from that, I'm gonna leave you with this video here, which is about things in your kitchen you might want to get rid of. This list was a lot of fixed elements, but this video over here that I'm sending you to is a little bit more like cheesy stuff that you might just maybe need a reminder to get rid of in your kitchen. So I'll see you all in that video. See you all in the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye.